Everybody, and welcome to our city's first town hall of 2022, and to our mutual delight, our second in person since the start of the COVID pandemic. This town hall is meant to give fellow Westies the chance to hear from and engage with Mayor Rossi to discuss the ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act funding, which will undoubtedly play a huge role in positively shaping the future of the city. Having these discussions and facilitating transparency is very important in creating a communion of trust between the government and the people. With that being said, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nicholas Thompson, and I will be your moderator tonight. I'm a junior at the University of New Haven, majoring in political science with a minor in economics. Additionally, I would like to give a quick shout out and thank you to the members of our Mayor's Advisory Commission, including Killian Gruber and our advisor, Dr. Chris Haynes, who have all worked very hard to organize this event. Now, let us all begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, before we start, I would like to turn over the attention to Killian really quickly, just to give a quick shout out to West Fest coming up.
All right, thank you all for coming. I just wanted to say we are holding West Fest this September, the Mayor's Advisory Commission. We're currently looking for sponsors, so if you or anyone you know is interested, you can contact us at westfest15@gmail.com. All right, thank you, and we hope to see you there.
Yep. Now, before we begin the official town hall proceedings, there are a couple things that I would like to cover. First and foremost is the ground rules for this town hall. After Mayor Rossi provides us her update, we'll take audience questions either verbally by lining up in front of the podium or using the index cards that have been passed up. All questions should relate to West Haven issues, specifically the ARPA funding, and must use appropriate language. Regarding the questions, I will alternate between pre-submitted questions, in-person questions, and questions from Facebook Live, more like every 2 to 3 in-person questions. And so for the rules, Killian will time the questions. Each questioner is going to have 60 seconds to ask a question. Then Killian will signal with 2 taps when there are 10 seconds remaining. These measures are in place not only in the interest of time, but also be fair to everybody who has come here tonight and wishes to ask a question. And of course, everybody can ask a question more than once. We just ask that if you wish so, just please return to the end of the line, and then you can ask another question. And we ask that Mayor Rossi be allowed to answer all questions uninterrupted. If you choose to do so, you may ask one 15-second follow-up question after the mayor answers your question. We further ask that all questions relate to the subject of ARPA funding so as to maintain the focus of this town hall. And importantly, please maintain decorum and keep questions respectful. Finally, I would like to thank Mayor Nancy Rossi for being here tonight to engage with our fellow Westies. Mayor Rossi is the 12th and first female mayor of West Haven. She has served as mayor since December of 2017 and was recently reelected. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Mayor Rossi.
I want to make sure everybody can hear me, even with the mic. Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Good. Thank you so much for being here tonight for our first town hall of 2022. I am grateful for the University of New Haven Mayor's Advisory Commission for organizing this event and to all of you for being here. Although our town halls are normally an open forum, this town hall will focus specifically on the recent funding that West Haven has received from the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. West Haven has received roughly $29 million from the ARPA funds, money that will be used to improve West Haven's infrastructure and help our community respond to the COVID pandemic, among other things. This meeting is to facilitate transparency between the West Haven government and you, its valuable citizens and taxpayers who make West Haven the great city that it is today. With that in mind, this town hall is being held to gain valuable input from all of you on the allocation of the ARPA funding and to answer questions you may have about it as well. On January 25th, 2022, a committee was established to oversee the projects in the ARPA plan. The committee is made up of trusted professionals and city residents who will be meeting monthly to oversee the development of the ARPA projects. The committee, which held its first special meeting on February the 1st, will continue to meet on the first Tuesday of every month at 5:45 p.m. The videos will be recorded and posted to the YouTube page for the City of West Haven. I encourage all of your feedback, and I welcome any and all questions you may have about this process. Before we begin the town hall, I would just like to share a few important announcements. As we are in the 2022 tax season, I would like to remind you that all eligible citizens of West Haven are able to receive tax assistance through the Volunteer Income Assistance Program. It's called VITA with the acronym. This program is now being held online and at the West Haven Community House. The program is available to those making less than $58,000 a year, those with limited English speaking skills, and those who have a disability. To sign up, visit Connecticut's 211 website. On Wednesday, February 23rd, we will be holding our 26th annual Black Heritage Celebration here in the Harriet C. North Community Room at 12 p.m. Please join us then to celebrate Black heritage in our community. On Friday, February the 11th, for our Valentine's Day celebration, I delivered 30 Valentine's Day bags to 30 couples that were married 50 years or longer. I'm pleased to say we were able to carry on this special tradition and celebrate the couples who have stayed together the longest. As a reminder, all of our city meetings are being recorded and uploaded to our City Hall YouTube page. You can watch all past ARPA meetings, City Council meetings, and any other meeting in City Hall. Before we start, I would like to thank the UNH Mayor's Advisory Commission for organizing this event tonight. I would also like to thank our MAC Chair, Christillis Douglas, and MAC Advisor, Dr. Chris Haynes, for making this event possible. I appreciate the partnership that my office has with the students at the University of New Haven, and I look forward to continuing this partnership. Thank you, and now, ready to go.
All righty. Before we enter question period, I would just like to quickly restate the rules. So Killian will time the questions. Each questioner is going to have 60 seconds to ask a question. Then Killian will signal with 2 taps when there are 10 seconds remaining. Please do not go over the available time limit. And now we will enter the question and answer period. So if you are interested in asking a question, I ask that you line before the podium and ask away.
Hi, my name is Kathy Hebert. I live in West Haven on Bloom Street. And basically, I have a suggestion, but I put it in a question form because that's what I was told. Can the ARPA funding be used to implement citywide large covered trash cans and recycle cans? And then obviously the trucks that pick them up. Because I live on Bloom and it's amazing. Garbage day, there's nothing but trash flying by the house because we have the open bins. And we do volunteer cleanups, but if we could do prevention. And it would meet health and environmental portions of ARPA.
No, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just want to say that really you don't have to phrase it in a question because
okay.
basically what I'm looking for is our suggestions. So you were giving me a suggestion that this is not the first time I heard it, and I do agree because unfortunately, I want to say it happens citywide. It's not just. So each and every time we get like a new request, we kind of take a look, and I'm working with Doug Coulter, who's also here too. We've been working on this plan for months now. And so we will, they were taking down the notes, and so we will take every suggestion under consideration. So thank you so much.
Were you done? That was
I
it?
have but I have to go to the end of the line for the next one.
Okay. Robin Parsons, are we supposed to give our address too? Do we have to do that?
I
No?
don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
no.
I'm confused about the protocol, sorry. I did a really super quick study of the final rule that's online, so I knew a little bit about what I was talking about. And as I understand it, there's a $10 million standard allowance that a town can claim just as loss of economic activity.
If I could just interrupt, because you brought it up, and that's great. And that was one of the most important things that came out in the last few days of the final regulation. So that's why, again, you know, it takes time to develop a plan like this. And I agree with you. We did have revenue loss, so did every other community. But the revenue loss, there's a huge calculation. And the problem
saw
is
it.
they can come back. So you see this.
I saw it.
So it could come 5, 10, 15 years later to come back. With the $10 million, as I call it, same thing as you did, like the standard deduction, similar to taxes.
Yes.
Not taking a chance with itemizing. So thank you for bringing the revenue part up, because a lot of times people aren't aware of the lost revenue and how we can recapture some of it.
Right, and then it went on to give the various categories for specific assistance. And I went through those really quickly, and I don't want to take too much time, but what I do want to point out is that in my impression is that West Haven doesn't spend enough on investing in things that pay dividends in the future. And I would appreciate it if the city went through this list. For instance, I'm going to just give a couple of examples. Under the $10 million standard allowance for government services, these are things that governments are traditionally providing for their community. You find things like road building and maintenance and other infrastructure. You also find environmental remediation. Under impacted households and communities, you find things like mortgage assistance, utility assistance, but you also find things like home repair and home weatherization.
My
And-
apologies, ma'am, just in the interest of time. Could you just summarize the suggestion? And my apologies, just to maintain the interest of the question.
Okay, I'm going to come back online then. But
That's very
basically,
okay.
my suggestion is that the city make a concerted effort to select items that will pay dividends, so that you're not just correcting a problem, you are actually leaving the city in better shape than it was before. And there are options, there are quite a number of options on the list that would fit that, but I'll
Thank you.
elaborate.
That's a good segue for me.
Sure, to the mayor.
The mic turned on, we cannot really hear you well.
You can't hear me? You can't hear this one. Patty, can you get me some water? Do you have water in your office? That's one thing I forgot. Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay.
I just don't want to start coughing or something.
All right, my name is Colleen Bailey. I'm the library director for West Haven. So East Hartford has allocated $3.5 million to a library branch with their ARPA funds already. As we know, the Village Improvement Association, the governing body of the library, we are looking for $5 million to go towards the building in Allentown location. We've already secured a grant from the state for $1 million, and that will be matched through our endowment, but we are looking for an additional $5 million, and libraries are one of those things that can be spent for, because it does a large return on investment in a community. We do help with the digital divide, we help with job seekers, we help with children looking for access to information, we help with digital equity, so I do think it's a perfect segue for the library for funding.
Thank you. Can't-
So I'm the director for the West Haven Library System. We are looking for funding for the Allentown branch location, which we lost in September of 2020. Thank you. So, all right.
Thank you, Colleen.
Hi, my name is Lee Hill, and I'm a new resident, fairly new to West Haven. And I know that things need to,
Can you just speak a little louder, because I can see people are shaking their heads that they
Oh.
can't hear you. I can hear you, but they can't.
I don't speak real loud.
I can't hear.
Yeah. Oh, would you be able to turn the microphone on so that the audience could hear?
The thin microphones go to the overhead speakers
so if you want to lean into the thinner microphone, that's the one that should be working. You might want to tap it and see if it works.
Okay. Is it better?
That's the one you want to speak to. The other one's supposed to go live stream.
Okay.
Okey-dokey.
Did you get the first part? Do I have to start over?
You could start over your question.
Okay,
That's
okay.
okay.
All right, a new resident to the city. Well, I know that we do have to do things to go forward. What I also think is that you have to have a solid foundation. And from what I have seen, the foundation here is very bad. And I agree with the trash pickup very much. The other thing is, there's a scarcity, from what I understand, of police. And what I don't see is there are many laws on the books, which is part of the reason I came here. I don't see them enforced. On 7th Avenue, I have seen speed limits I clocked up to 71 miles per hour. It's 25 miles per hour. There's one speed limit sign on one side of the street. There's no speed limit signs other than that. There are no stop signs, there are no crosswalks. There have been 2 instances of cars running through fences of people's front yards. I think that perhaps money can be directed for that, something to do, more police, maybe cameras to check on people that are speeding. And also, there are many clogged drains. And I have called, and it's now 3 months, they're still clogged. So I think repairing things and also going forward, but that to me is a very big deal because you can't, it's like you're walking on ice that's melting and you can't do that.
Thank you.
So that's,
Well, thank you.
Is there any way we could adjust the microphone so that,
Yeah, see, that's not his equipment.
Mike's on my system. I don't want to touch stuff.
turn it so she faces you and some of the voice can go that way.
What do you want to turn?
If you turn this, she stood here maybe, and then she could speak to you and maybe some sound would go.
What do you want?
Maybe to
No, no.
turn the
Oh,
podium
you
or
can't
the...
turn
No,
the thing.
no.
Yeah, right, that belongs to.
No, I just meant rotate it.
Yeah,
rotate, she
so
was
that she
saying.
faces you and her voice projection.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor. You can hear me, right?
We can hear you fine.
Yes.
At least I can.
My name is Shawnette James Markey, and I live here in West Haven for the past 10 years. And the purpose of this funding, I will speak on bullet number 3 that says, provide financial assistance to those impacted most by the pandemic, including vulnerable households, which that's what I'm here representing. I want to know if part of this funding can be allocated to support homelessness and also to support youth services, senior services, because a city that has no service for its now, which is the youth, and its future, which is the seniors, it's not a good city. And also for those who are impacted the most, the homeless, those who lost their housing because of this pandemic. I would really, really like to see something put in place for those group of people. Thank you so much.
And believe me, all of them, I have definitely considered already. So it's not the first time that I've heard it, and I do realize there is a need.
Yes.
I'm not going into details because the plan is not finished, and we still have to switch a few things around over the next week or so, a couple of weeks. But yes,
ma'am.
I do realize, and in fact, at the first meeting that we had of the ARPA committee that's going to oversee the projects, they
Yes.
don't delegate the funding or anything, but they oversee the
Yes.
projects, make sure they get done. We had a woman come from New Haven that actually spoke to a homeless shelter and how they did it in
Yes.
Haven and how we could replicate that in West Haven.
So I work in New Haven, the city of New Haven, and I'm their community outreach worker for homelessness.
Okay.
As a West Haven resident, I would like to be a part of that discussion to see what I can bring to the table as a resident and also with 22 years of experience working in this field.
Absolutely.
Thank
We
you.
would welcome your input.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thanks for putting this together. So, my name is Brian Laux. I live at 687 West Main Street here in West Haven. I've been here, 25 some odd years. I also have a lien on my property for $3.82, dating back to 2018, because I didn't pay my sewer tax on time. And the reason I'm telling you this is I also struggle managing my finances as well. So the reason I'm here is more to make a recommendation. And the recommendation is, given what has transpired over the past few months and all those optics that are involved with it, the fact that you're having a committee to manage that spend, that keeps me up at night. My recommendation would be to hire a third party to manage those checks and balances, to ensure that that money gets properly spent and reconciled correctly, and that's why I came here tonight.
Well, just to answer what you're
Yep.
talking about, you're putting two things together. They're
Sure.
actually separate.
Yep.
We do plan on hiring outside help. In
Okay,
other
good.
words, as far as to run things through our finance department, what we call different, financial issues to pay for these projects.
Yep.
The committee is there to help facilitate the project. So in
Okay.
other words, to put in for RFPs, RFQs.
Yep.
Let me use the right thing. Request for qualifications, requests for proposals.
Yep.
And so we are going to do that, but this committee is the same committee, not all, but a lot of the members
Yep.
that have facilitated our beautiful high school. And
Yep.
they're a group of volunteers. They're
Okay.
doing this to help the city. Most
Okay.
of them, if they don't live here now, they did live here at one time or
Okay.
grew up here.
Okay.
So I do totally agree with you.
Yep.
It should be a separate outside person handling
Okay.
the books, if you will,
Okay.
for the financing of the project, but the actual work and as I said, working with engineers and different things like that will be handled by the committee. So
Okay.
the finances are still going to be kept in City Hall. We haven't hired anybody yet because we're not there yet, and there's no point in hiring somebody until, we get through this process and actually have an approved plan.
Sure.
But we are planning on doing that. And I want to say, I don't want to speak for other municipalities, but I think
Yep.
pretty much everyone's doing that because
Okay.
you want somebody that's independent, or
Yep.
somebody who is going to get it right, and I agree with you. We
Yep.
don't want any financial problems. We want
Yep.
this done correct, right, and to the
Okay.
penny.
Okay. On that note, when it comes to RFPs and RFXs and procurement supply chain, I've spent 25 years in that profession. Asa Abloy, Medtronic, Yale New Haven Health, Duracell, Remington Products. I've been a lot of different places. I know the ins and outs. If you ever needed help, or you ever needed assistance, or you needed somebody to volunteer to look at Ts and Cs, to look at warranties, to assist in any way, I'd be happy to do that. I mean, as an outside person, and, I read things in the paper and that sort of thing, I definitely know what went wrong. Because I've seen it in my career where things have run amok, and, the I's weren't dotted and the T's weren't crossed. So I'd be willing to help if you ever
Okay.
needed it.
Well, thank you, and
Okay.
thank you very much for your comments.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, Mayor. My name is Naza Bungu, and I'm located on Lake Avenue. I've been a resident for 2.5 years now, and I'm here to address a couple issues. I'm really thankful that a couple people mentioned the garbage cans and the recycling. It's horrific every Tuesday. Also, the back waterways where the lake is coming in. My backyard is literally the brook that comes down from the creek or from the lake, and it's caused a lot of flooding. I've attended several meetings with Public Commissioner Tom McCarthy, with Dorinda Borer, Abdul, Wetlands Commissioner, and we, as the neighbors on Lake Avenue, have not seen any type of improvements. We don't know what's happening with that, so I'd like to know if some of that money can be brought to that, because I know, like, my back deck is literally being pulled towards the creek, and pretty soon it's going to collapse. And it's because of the waterway. So I'm hoping that some of that money can be put towards that. Also, our street on Lake Avenue is dipping, and so I'm hoping that, something can be done about that, where somebody can come in, assess, and see if there's any money that can be put into that. And potholes, lots of potholes in West Haven, so can we please come along and, maybe add some new streets, pavement, whatever we need to do. On my road alone on Lake Avenue, that's why I'm saying Lake Avenue often, because there's lots of issues on Lake Avenue, is, we have at least 3 potholes that I would love somebody to come in or repave the whole entire street.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, we did do a lot of paving in the past year.
Did.
Well over $2 million worth. That still, unfortunately, couldn't catch up for the lack of services like in previous administration, like paving roads when they need to. So we're doing our best to catch up, because again, I'm just going to put this out there in case anybody's new and doesn't know. When I took over the city in December of 17, we were on the verge of bankruptcy. Within 2 days later, we were put under state oversight because the previous administration had triggered deficit bonding, which triggers now oversight, and we've had that oversight, whether we liked it or not, for the past 4+ years. So we were not in the best financial condition at all. But I will say we've made major improvements. We absolutely have. We no longer have a deficit. We have a fund balance. We have exceeded what we expected in our budget each and every year since I have been in. We got a bond rating outlook upgrade. So we are cognizant, of what's going on, but it's just been very, very difficult because we had to cut a lot of staffing when we got in because we were told we had to knock $2 million out of our 18 budget at that point in time, which was already half over. So we've struggled. There's no question about it. And the residents have been great, and I have to commend the unions because they've been great as well. They went for years with zeros, no pay increases. That being said, back to your issues and what you brought up as far as the water. The water issues are not just in one district or one street. They unfortunately are citywide. I'll give you, for instance, it's not my district, but it's my neighboring district on Lydia Street. Literally, when it rains or however the storms come, not all the time, but some of the time, they literally need canoes. They have their complete basements flood up, their stuff goes out. So we will be looking at an engineering firm to look at the whole city so that we can concentrate and have a plan to go forward to fix this. I also know that, State Representative Ferraro has said that because he's the councilman in that area, that he's pushing forward. When I had a meeting with the state delegation, he wants to do everything he can help. So I think not only with him, but we have a full state delegation. State Representative Trinda Boer is here. I don't see State Representative Trenae McGee, but she's new but very eager to get things done. So we're going to try our best because I agree with you. The way that Lake Street is after that last storm and the way that, it eroded, I went down there and looked too, and it's horrific. It looks like some major, tank went through there, if nothing else, for lack of a better word. So we are definitely, interested in it. The pothole situation is hard because it's been warm, hot, but I know that the other day they did send out potholes, so I will make sure that Public Works does know about it and can come to Lake Street.
Lake Ave.
Lake Ave, sorry.
'Cause there is a
Sorry.
Lake Street.
I know, sorry. I apologize, Lake Ave.
That's okay. Thank you.
No, thank you for coming. Hello.
I'm going to bring you back to 4 years ago, when I accosted you about the senior center, that what we have is on Noble Street on the 3rd floor, and they did the paint job, but it's still on the 3rd floor. So we need a new senior center, and I think that we should combine the Allentown Public Library that are looking, the senior center, a community activity center, make a new building and put all these combined, because people, even when they find the information, you don't know where to go for information. Like now, I just found the information how to get a bus. I'm going to start using the bus. I never used the bus in my whole life. So now I'm going to use the bus because I cannot drive that far. And I didn't know how to get to New Haven, to go to another town by bus. And I had to ask one of the friends over here. And he happens to give me the information. So if we don't get to beautify this, make it more accessible for the seniors, the senior center, if we don't take a chance now to do it, it's not gonna be done, because now you have the money that could be put towards, and if you cannot use the ARP money, then have the grant writer ask the government for grants, because the government has, the state and the federal, they have appropriate money, if you ask for, to put a new senior center.
I did want to let you know, too, that I am looking into all of this. Again, we've tried everything, and I know 29 million sounds like a lot of money, but after the years of neglect, unfortunately, for our infrastructure, it's a drop in the bucket. And I keep saying I could spend it at least 3 times over, and that's when you would see a difference. That being said, that's why I wanted this meeting to hear all of this. Additionally, they have voted the infrastructure bill in. So now we're starting with that, like I was with ARPA several months ago, and that is now you've got to learn all the rules. You've got to find out what it's good for. I know it's going to be, to your point, a grants program. I don't know if it's going to be competing grants or what it's going to be, but as soon as they have the information. But I do agree that, you know, the senior center, that's one of the downfalls of it. It's a shame because they, we have a new director there that I'm sure you have met, and she's done wonderful things with getting programming and parties and different things, and they're planning their first trip, I believe it's in March, because now that pretty much hopefully we have all this COVID at least behind us too, that we can enjoy ourselves a little one. So we are looking into all avenues, because I do agree that, you know, again, but I will say one thing, it didn't belong at the conference center. That's the only thing. We already got the conference center taken care of, at the brewery. So,
I was never just for the conference.
No, I know,
I have
but-
friends of mine that they want the conference
They want the
center,
conference
which
center.
is ideal. But I say combine the services. Everybody says, oh, there is a community housing, community service, whatever. It's a community service, it's not for people. I went to visit the community service, the community housing, whatever you call it.
you mean the community house over on Elm Street? Or
Yes, I went to visit, because when you say community housing, you make it seem like it's a program that you could go, anyone can go and see. I went, they opened the door because everything is locked. I barely see through the wood, half of the person to the door. She was very good. But the community housing is not a program for everybody. It's a group homes, daycare, and Head Start. So someone like me is not going to go to the community housing. But information, as our state senator, Dorinda,
she's not state senator, she's state representative.
state
You got
representative.
promoted.
Okay. Oh, she's here.
She's here, no, that's why I
She's
said.
here. Well,
state rep-
she suggested that there should be a place where people could go for information. So we don't have anywhere to get information. So establish one thing, like I said, like Orange as a community center for the senior center, the whatever the programs they have. Milford has that, Brantford has that. Why can't West Haven have it? We have 1/3 of the seniors are the population in West Haven. So we need a new senior center. How to get it? If you cannot get it with ARP, get it with grants. The grant writing, write the grants, and let's get the senior center.
We will do our best, I promise you. We will absolutely do our best.
Thank you,
No, thank you.
thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy Hebert again, still on Bloom.
You didn't move?
I didn't move. So, another suggestion for the ARPA funding was to reopen Marginal Drive to hiking and biking, connect UNH to Yale to Southern. And I'm also on the West River Watershed Coalition, and I'm working with someone in New Haven, and we spoke with Giovanni, I forget his last name, the city engineer of New Haven, and he's in favor of it. I'm working with some of the students at UNH, and I'll be coming to the city council next month with an actual proposal. But that would, and I walk there, and it is a mess right now, but it could be beautiful. And I did the walk, which I'll give you the
Oh, I
map,
can-
and
can I
the
have
red
it?
line is
Thank you.
connects UNH to Southern. It's really more of a bike thing to do, but you can walk it. I walked it, and back. So, just to possibly use some of the ARPA funding, keep it in mind. And we also are going to be applying for various grants.
I will keep it in mind. I'll tell you, right now, one of the biggest problems we have down there, because it's dark, as everyone knows, the dumping is
The dumping is-
absolutely
yes.
unbelievable. We have been lucky and got a few people arrested because they weren't bright enough to take their information out, and we're happy for that because we were able to get people arrested. But it's just terrible how they just empty their houses out either on the street. And I mean, it's unfortunate. It's not only Marginal Drive, it's throughout our city. I mean, Stevens Avenue is another one. I've seen 20 tires dumped over there that weren't
Spring
there the
Street.
day before. So it is a shame, and that's one of the things that I want, if, again, we have plenty of money, is some sort of camera system, something, because these
Yeah,
people
you need
have
the
to pay for it. And if they know that they can just take their stuff and dump it and then go back to wherever it is they live, they're going to continue to do it.
And I also think if you have a group of people walking through, biking, families, that will have eyes on the road, the pathway, that will eventually limit the dumping. It's never going to go away. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Robin again, and I endorse everything that the people before me have said, but I'm going to just pull out for these individual categories the things that I think are important. And obviously, the water sewer infrastructure
Yes.
is a top priority because of, as you say, the flooding in houses, but also the damage in other parts of town and the danger. I think that's a critical thing to address, and I think it ought to be combined with best practices, not just let's build a pipe and move it. Think about green infrastructure. As far as the impacted households and communities, I think absolutely rental assistance, mortgage assistance, property tax assistance, what else do I have here? Home repair and home weatherization are critical things that would actually put people in a stronger position. Under the disproportionately impacted households and communities, I think remediation of lead paint is something that's absolutely worth doing because it affects children. Children is where it's at. That needs attention. Ditto improvement to vacant and abandoned properties, including rehabilitation or maintenance. This is an appropriate thing to spend money on, and Lord knows we have abandoned properties that need remediation. As far as assistance to disproportionately impacted small businesses, there's money in there for rehabilitation of commercial properties, storefront improvements, and facade improvements. That's leveraging the money to make the town better and to make it more appealing, and, it just connects. Effective service delivery. This connects with what the woman who just spoke about the senior center was talking about. Technology infrastructure to improve access to and user experience of government systems. We have poor communications in this city, and this is an opportunity to improve that. It also can be used for community outreach and engagement activities, and capacity-building resources to support using data and evidence, including hiring staff, consultants, or technical assistance support. I think that's a critical need for West Haven, and I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Hello.
I'm Heather, Rockefeller Avenue. So just first want to say I don't have a lot of knowledge about it, but the wastewater, the storm drainage, the art center, senior center, 100%, I fully endorse. I just think those are all super important. But I just want to speak to, in the sake of time, public health is an enormous priority for the use of ARPA funds, in my opinion. Our health department has one director, one nurse, 2 full-time sanitarians, and a part-time sanitarian. And they do have a wonderful administrative assistant as well. How this department was able to successfully stand up a vaccination clinic during the pandemic was thanks to a program created by contracted nurses to create this, as well as volunteer vaccinators from the community, as well as support from the West Haven Fire Department, West Haven's Emergency Management. There's no way this department would have been able to do what they did without the volunteers and the contracted staff to support this. The staff that is currently employed by this department is stretched to the limits dealing with the day-to-day responsibilities, never mind a pandemic. A vaccination clinic, in my opinion, encompassing all required vaccinations, should be a function of this department now long-term. This would provide an immunization program to an at-risk population and help our population in need. There could be city-supported clinics regularly, such as the blood pressure screenings and education events going on right now through the month of February, going forward. My understanding is that our health director would ultimately like the space that was utilized for the clinics during the pandemic and still ongoing on Noble Street to maybe be a new home to the health department. The one missing piece to that, happening more immediately, would be a generator. Perhaps the ARPA funds and use of any other available grants, and I think we're all referring to poor Doug over there, like Doug can, could help our health department consider an additional nurse, a health educator, as well as get the generator that is needed to move the department to a much larger location where the COVID-19 vaccination clinics have been held. And I know the ARPA funds are a limited resource, but I do know and agree with the other woman. There's many other grants and funding opportunities to assist with the recommendations above and that I was going to mention below, but in the sake of time. But utilizing the ARPA funds to help lay the groundwork to some permanent solutions would be amazing. Mental health clinics, city-supported mental health clinics. We have Bridges, we have Cornell Scott, we have all that, but also within the city, we have a youth and family services, we have senior services, and a lot of what everyone is saying. Let's bring them together. We need a youth center. We need a community center would be outstanding. And I agree with Representative Boer about, listings of programs to make them so people know where to go, because people don't know where to go. They're always searching. But the one thing I need to implore everybody is we must find a way in all aspects of our local government to work together, stopping the piecemeal approach where everyone is working towards the same end result, but in their own isolated areas in their own ways. There's no communication and no progress this way. Let's get work groups together from all the different volunteer community groups and city departments to work together to accomplish all of our end goals. That is a flourishing, successful city for our residents and our children. And in that vein, I strongly suggest a citizen oversight committee to oversee the ARPA funds in addition to the working group put in place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Tom Conroy, lifelong resident, 28 years city employee, recreational programmer, longest in the West Haven history. Anyway, I'm here, maybe a little bit what they want also, looking for a recreation facility also. I believe that we should build it in Painter Park, okay? The issue is we have our summer camps there, and when you have 165 kids and you have a thunderstorm in the middle of the afternoon and you have no place to put them, we either have to call buses, we have to rent a bus. I can imagine what that's been for over the past 20 years or whatever that we had to do that. Many times we would go to the high school gym if we had enough warning. But I have to say, over the 20 years that I've been doing this, probably more than half the time, there was always something going on at the high school that we couldn't use it, okay? Last couple of years, due to the COVID, obviously we weren't be able to offer that because there was no way we were putting 165 kids in a McCrill gym, okay? So I think we have plenty of room there, okay? We could build something. What I was going to say is the steel building, okay? As you're aware, we have the steel building up there with the maintenance, Parks maintenance, okay?
Yes.
That was built pretty reasonable, if I remember correctly, somewhere around $250,000. It was really, I don't know, maybe Doug probably knows better or whatever, but I know it was reasonable, okay? It's smaller than what we would need, okay? And obviously, it wouldn't have gym floors and stuff like that, but I'm thinking maybe a couple $1 million, I don't know, you know what I mean, something like that, okay? And also, on top of that, Painter Park. Painter Park really needs, Painter Park should be the prize of this city, honestly, for the residents, okay? I know we have the beach, everybody goes to the beach and talks about the beach, but Painter Park has really been abused. I can remember begging during the Boer administration, we got the 2 pavilions put in, okay? Which was an improvement because the ones from there were built back in the 30s, all right? So we got those replaced, but since then, it's stopped, okay? The wooden playground, which is the most used playground in this city, okay? The life expectancy of those parks are 13 to 17 years, okay? We are going on 30 years, all right? It was built in 1994, all right? I understand Lowe's came in 6 years ago. It's 6 years already, okay? And they did some stuff, but, you know, I mean, it didn't come back to what it was. I'm just saying we should have a plan to replace that sooner or later, because someone's going to get stuck with it, okay? The building that our day camp office is, that was built in 1935, okay? So that, you know, could use some, that used to actually be the locker room for West Haven football, used to play on that field there, okay?
Thank you, sir. My apologies. Just in the interest of time.
Okay,
Questions
just-
coming up.
All right. And I just want to talk about things like the bathrooms, you know, those are old. Tennis courts, our tennis courts are about 50 years old. We just redid the ones at the high school. Those are probably half as old as the one at Painter Park or whatever. So I just think that Painter Park should get a big sprucing up or whatever again for, you know, that's someplace that the residents use and stuff like that, okay? Maybe a splash pad, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pam,
Hi,
and I still feel like a new resident, but I've been here for 15 years.
I'm still a new resident. I came in 1981, so I feel like, because I wasn't born and raised here,
Yeah,
that's what I'm going
right.
to say, but welcome.
Thank you. And I'm newly retired, so I'm looking to put, you know, some of my energy back into the community. And before I leap into volunteering at New Haven Reads in New Haven, I'm hoping, I understand there's West Haven children who go to New Haven for New Haven Reads, and considering the pandemic, I can't help but wonder that there's a backlog of catching up for these kids, and maybe there's some money to have a satellite in West Haven so that West Haven students don't have to transport to New Haven, and it'll involve community members as volunteers. So if there's any kind of seed money or whatever's required, I don't really know that much about it, but it's a suggestion. And the other suggestion is about stress relief from the pandemic and the boardwalk, and I try to use it whenever I can, and I would love for it to be longer and wider and maybe elevated where places it's currently not set up. So if there's any value there for the ARPA funds, that would be another consideration. And then, in general, you hear about traffic, road rage, incidents on the highway, and even in Long Wharf where you have drag racing. And we live at night, you can hear pretty well up and down Ocean Avenue, and there is drag racing there. And I know it's a state road and you can't put bumps in the road, but speed bumps, but maybe there's security cameras or something that can alleviate or make it a little more difficult. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Rossi. How are
Good
you?
evening. We're in person, so
Yes, yeah.
not on the screen this time.
So my name is Carmela, and I'm not originally from here. I've been here 10 years. I specifically moved to West Haven because there is a Coast Guard base in New Haven, which I currently serve in the Coast Guard, which means my passion is water, keeping the waters clean, but my passion is also my community. I happen to live on Beach Street, and I've heard you say many times that the beach pristine. That's one of the reasons why people come to West Haven. And so every summer, a group of us get together, we even cut the grass, because there's grass there. And when it's not being kept up, it kind of looks messy. And we do all the cleaning after the big parties and everything that happens on a beach. And so I just want to know if they would consider, I've talked to Mr. McCarthy, just replacing that whole wooded fence. I live right next to Chex, so there's a wooden fence going all the way, and I think at some point they removed some of it by the complex a little bit further down. And there's beautiful greenery that grows there, and I know it's not good for people to be walking over it, and I know it's just a fence, but it is my community. We maintain it, we clean it, and I just want to put it out there if they could just consider replacing that fence. And I wanted to thank you for bringing out all that sand, wherever the funding came from. I just wanted to thank you for taking care of that, because now that the summer's coming, I mean, people walk, and at some point that was collapsing. And it's water, this is what's happening, climate change, and it is real. But I do know that there's new owners for Chicks, and somebody bought the motel. And it's home for me, and it's a special place for me. And I just want to put it out there if they will consider just replacing that fence.
I will definitely, because Killian's taking down notes, so I'll have all of this,
Okay.
Tomorrow, and then I can dispense it to wherever I have it. But you're right, beaches, it's beautiful.
It is.
And we are in the process of raising Beach Street. We have
Yep.
applied for the permit. Unfortunately, going through deep, it takes at least 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
But we are moving forward with that, because I do agree, and I would like to see, again, because right now, Chicks is still there and deteriorating, so
Yeah.
we want to see it, look completely different.
Yeah, and it also takes the community to maintain it and support it. It's great when people come out and really care about this project, because it's been going on. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so
No,
much.
and thank you.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you
welcome.
very much.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Gay Heyer, Forest Road, and until you said it, I hadn't quite counted up on my fingers, but I've been here almost 40 years now. I wanted to elaborate on something that Representative Barr had on her video that she sent around with the notification of this meeting. She suggested a few possible topics, and one of them was the fact that we have small businesses who need people, who need employees. And my proposal is to use some of the ARPA money, and perhaps other money as well, I don't know, to make our own WPA. Instead of the Work Projects Association, administration from back in the 30s, why can't we have a West Haven Projects Administration? And that would include a CCC, a Civilian Conservation Corps, where youth who are underemployed, unemployed, or just don't have enough to do over the summer and in the afternoons could do things like cleaning the beach, working on Marginal Drive, all kinds of greenery projects, which could also dovetail with training for green jobs in the future. And then the other part would be, there's lots of refugees now coming into the area through IRIS, the refugee resettlement people in New Haven. They need jobs, they need training, they need jobs. Could any of this funding be used as training money and then placing people in local small businesses where essentially their employee then would be somewhat subsidized? The refugee would learn a trade, they'd be feeling like they're part of the community, and then the business owner would have somebody to help them and could grow their business, and it could be dovetailed, and it would be a win-win for everybody. I don't know if that's possibly used for this money, but it seemed like an idea.
Well, as I said, I'm taking all suggestions tonight, and then we're going to see what we can put together and check uses to make sure, because there's a lot of different uses. And as I said, we're also going to be getting infrastructure money at some point in time. We just don't know when that's coming and when the instructions that go with it are coming, because it's usually a process.
But also bringing up the other lady's idea of it's being an investment in the community, not just spent on the community. If you were to use part of it as training for high school seniors or college, community college or whatever, and refugees who then would feel part of the community and improve the community, and going forward, it's an investment in us and in them. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Rossi.
Good evening, Councilman.
Victor Boris, 8th District City Councilman. Just here to represent my district. I know that all these great ideas from everybody are awesome, you know. God bless our seniors, our children's. But I'm just here to read a letter from the 8th District, presuming on Phipps Drive. Says, "To whom it may concern, I am writing to express the flooding issue that has impacted the streets of Phipps Drive and certain homes in this area. The owners of 23 Phipps Drive have experienced flooding issues along with the previous owners. Enclosed, I have attached a couple of letters from a previous homeowner along with one written by the tax district of the city expressing our concerns with intersections improvements in 1998. We have had previous meetings with the city over the years with no improvements taken to widen the pipes under Phipps Drive. The main issue is that the city says is the state's problem, while the state says is the city's responsibility. The flooding has gotten worse over the years due to the 95 corridor paving and upstream development. All these areas drain into a natural watercourse, which then causes the water during heavy rain to go over Phipps Drive, causing flash flooding. A question that comes up frequently by many is, will this problem be resolved in the near future?" So I understand that stormwater systems are a liable expense. So I'm asking and requesting for a fix, for an update for the flooding. Hopefully that, I mean, we got flooding all over West Haven, but we can try to use that money to at least help these people that put so much into their homes and you know, with the flooding, just destroy everything. So hopefully you'll take that into consideration.
We've already talked about this earlier. I don't know if you were in
Right,
the
okay.
room
I
at the
just got here,
time,
right.
but we did, and that's what I said. This is a West Haven issue throughout the city. It's the flooding and the sewers and all of the problems that we have. I don't think there's one area of West Haven that doesn't get some sort of flooding, some more than others. So we're going to look into getting an engineer to assess the city and give us their
awesome.
plan on how to do it, because otherwise, we're doing it piecemeal, as they, you know, everyone says,
Right.
so we're putting a Band-Aid on this one, and we're going to go to this district and do this. We need a plan for the whole city, and as I said, I know that it's throughout the city. I've seen the damage, you know, in West Shore. I've seen the damage in Allentown. I've seen the damage in the Center
Yes.
District. So it's throughout the city. It's not one area. And there's no rhyme or reason, because when you get a storm, you would assume the same places flood, and sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. So that's why an engineer is really needed to put a plan together so we have something to follow and you know, make strides in improving this condition throughout the city.
I appreciate it. This letter was ran back in 2013, you know, so it's old, and the mayor's done a lot. So I thank you for what you've done, and I would like to leave you a packet when you have time.
Oh, sure, thank you. Thank you
so
very,
much,
very
and
much.
God bless everybody. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Vanita Lambert, and I'm here to represent my entire neighborhood because they're not here. It's a Sanford Street, Miami Street neighborhood, and our neighbors, we've been through a thing or two over the years. My husband and I, we bought our house back in 1988, I believe, and recently it started flooding. We have a raised ranch that's up high, and we have at our back door a drain. So first of all, let me just back up a little bit. We've endured, we had wells, and our wells were contaminated by the gas station up on the Post Road. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, back in 1996. So so the gas station on the Post Road contaminated all of our wells. Now we all have quarterly water bills, which we didn't have. They had to dig up our yards, they brought pipes in, you know, city water, our streets were a wreck for years and years. So we kind of went through that. Now we're going through the issue of flooding. And I've come here before and talked about this. My house, actually, the water backs up from the back door, because it's a raised ranch, so it's partially underground, and the water is pouring into my basement as the street is flooding, and it's up high. And in 2018, we had over $10,000 worth of damage. Not here asking for, reimbursement or anything. I actually called a meeting with my councilwoman, Robin Hamilton, Tom McCarthy, and the engineer. I think his name is Abdul something, Quadir or something. So he was here during all that contamination and all the piping, repiping and everything. And he actually came up with a viable plan that would solve the problem for our neighborhood. And so I know you can't do the whole city all at once, but what I'm requesting is, since our neighborhood has been through the water contamination, having our streets dug up, having our yards dug up, paying the water bill, and all the streets, all the homes flood, I think if we could just sit down with him, it would be a great place to start. You gotta start somewhere, so why not Allentown? So I'm requesting that, you consider that, so that we could, not have to, we pay for floors all the time, the water just rush in, and God forbid if we're on vacation, we just come home to a total wreck. And I have a live-in basement, it's all completely finished. And it's just so painful, and you feel so helpless when you can't do anything about that water pouring in. So that's one of the things. There's another one. I'm sorry.
That's what we're here for.
I talked to your assistant, her name is Kristen. I talk to her all the time and give her ideas.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think that I would like to see that may not cost anything is the empty lots on Daytona Street. Okay? If there's some way that we could make those owners responsible for their property, just like at my house, we have to clean in front of our house and everything. If there's something we could do to make them responsible, because you should see the trash. It's like a dumping zone. They throw boxes and, like you said before, tires and, all kinds of things. It's just a dumping area. If we can make them responsible for their property, to keep it clean, to, I don't know, put up bird watching cameras, do whatever you need to do, it just looks awful. And I've been here for 30-something years, and it was beautiful. And now it's not beautiful. It's so much trash in West Haven. When you get off the highway, I have a customer appreciation party for my clients every single year in August. And I advocate for seniors, so I want to talk to a couple of you people. That's my passion. So, and when they get off the highway, it just looks awful. I don't know if that's state or city or what, but is there anything we could do on, sooner than later about at least the trash? And I know we have to wait for the money to come in for infrastructure and engineer planning and this and that. I know that's a process and it's gonna take time, but is there something we could do immediately, like send out letters to the property owners, say, look, you have to maintain your property. Have somebody drive by and clean it. They buy property, they wait for it to, appreciate, and they live, in a great neighborhood where there's no dumping, and we have to live with that. We actually go out and clean it, and we shouldn't have to do that.
Well-
And I'm getting older now, I don't want to do it.
Here is the thing, the first thing we have to do is identify whose property it is, because if it's a state, then naturally, somebody else isn't going to clean it for them. We would expect the state, to come. If it's a city property, then the city, and if it's, to your point, a homeowner's property, then they should do it. So, again, Killian's writing down addresses, so this is more of a blight type of issue if somebody's throwing garbage constantly. But I do agree with you, as I said earlier, again, it's unfortunate, but during COVID, for whatever reason, it just seemed to get worse. Like, trash was just flying. And, there's certain areas that's always had a problem. But again, throwing garbage out, that's not, not the way it should be. And we want a clean city. That's why I appreciate all the volunteers that come out and they clean the beaches and do what they do, because it's very, very helpful to us, because we do want it clean. Not only the beach, but throughout the city, all the parks, all the areas.
Yeah, so it's not fair to us to have to come out and clean. I call Public Works and, and everybody. It's not fair, we do it, but can we get something like, I think they're called like bird watching cameras. Like, how you go through the tolls and you don't pay, how they send you a ticket with your license plate? Something like that, or at least threatening signs, $200 fines for littering, something. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Before the next question, I just wanted to let everybody know that we'll go for another 10 minutes of discussion. Thus far has been fantastic. But we'll go for the next 10 minutes, so that's about time enough for 2 more questions. So, go right ahead.
Hi. Hi, Nancy. How are you?
Hi. Long time no see.
I would like to ask for your strong consideration for funding for the Allentown Library, for the construction of the Allentown Library. As you know, our library was closed even though we had outbid the developer by almost $200,000, he was awarded and that was extremely unfair to begin with. But beyond that, the citizens of Allentown need a library. As you know, you can't find a job today if you don't have access to the internet. And from what I'm told, 1 out of 4 families in West Haven do not have access to the internet. So they need to go to a library where they can find a computer. Kids need a place to go for after-school programs and creative things. All the things that the library has always provided to the citizens abruptly ended. And we really need financial assistance to make it happen, as you know. So here's a bucket of money. Let's let a lot of it dribble over onto the side, you know?
I'll do what I can with it, because as I said, everybody has their cause, and everybody,
Well-
you know, believes in it, and I do agree. And
But
to
this
be
is-
honest with you, every cause that everybody's brought forward, I think, is necessary. I wish I
Absolutely.
had, you know,
This is
more
one-
money.
This is 1/3 of the city who doesn't have
No, I know.
very essential things. So hopefully you'll give it strong consideration. 5 million, more or less. Thank you.
Am I going to get 70 degrees on March the 13th?
This is what I'm saying.
Before the next suggestion, I just wanted to let everybody know that if you don't get the chance to offer your suggestion or ask a question, that you could call the mayor's office, you could email the mayor at, Kelly, you have the email? Yeah,
and
it's
Ro-
on the website, and Rossi at westhaven-ct.gov, or contact your council people with any more suggestions that you have if you don't get the chance. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, now I'm back as a taxpayer.
Okay.
I just want to expand on a couple of things that were talked about, is like the trash, okay? As I'm sure you're aware of, like Milford has the one-man trash trucks.
Yes.
The one-armed,
Yes.
okay? And they supply all the trash cans, okay? Now, that's the biggest expense,
Is the
okay?
trash cans.
And I'm just thinking, the trash can and the trucks. The
Right.
trucks go for about $150,000, $200,000, okay? I don't know how many the city would need, 2, 3, something like that, or whatever, okay? But that's what I'm saying, is that's where your expenses, and now with the money that you have, it's almost, you know, free money to do this. You know as well as I do, we spend over $2 million a year in trash pickup,
we do.
okay? And $1 million goes to the carrier, okay? The other thing is that you spoke about is the trash, okay? Transfer station. I was very surprised. I was watching one of the council meetings, and that Helm Street is up for sale, which would be a perfect transfer station, quite frankly. I'll just tell you a little story, is my mother-in-law just recently passed, okay, and she lived in Shelton, okay? So she had a nice house, stuff like that, or whatever. Now, we sold the house, we had to get everything out of the house. So Shelton has a transfer station, okay? I have my little Ford Ranger truck. I made about 5 or 6 different loads, took it down to the transfer station. They take everything. They have dumpsters, people gotta understand, transfer station is not a dump. It's not where you put your garbage, it's, you know, it's all the other stuff. All the other stuff that ends up in where I started my conversation in Painter Park, okay?
Well, I'm smiling while you're talking, because
Right.
Tom McCarthy and I've learned more about a transfer station and
Well,
what it
it's-
is.
it
and
was the
maybe
greatest
we're
thing,
gonna
you
put
know.
it- I have to tell you, I've learned a lot, you know,
And Milford actually makes money, okay, because they
Actually,
charge
yeah, I
like a
like that.
permit and stuff like that.
making
So,
money.
yeah, I mean, so that's something to think about also.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, while suggestions are being offered, if we could just keep the side conversation to a minimum, just in the interest of, you know, having ideas heard. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor Rossi. Thank you for having this public input session. Michelle Coletti, 2nd Avenue, West Haven, also president of the Sandy Point Neighborhood Association.
Oh.
So I wanted to just show up tonight and reiterate support for some of the initiatives that I've heard tonight. Obviously, infrastructure. There'll be separate infrastructure money, but this ARPA money qualifies for infrastructure, including flooding. Above all, advocating support for Senior Services Senior Center, open Marginal Drive, which is an open space initiative directly tied to mitigation of what's going from a pandemic to an endemic, so outdoor space enhancements. In addition to that, cities like Hackensack and other cities have instituted programs for small businesses. So an application of grants on a sliding scale, depending on the impacts that COVID has had on that particular business, especially potentially businesses and restaurants in West Haven and the downtown. And the final suggestion, as it pertains to our neighborhood, Peter O'Neill, who also served on the Water Pollution Control Authority, I believe, we had been discussing the water treatment plant and the improvements that are necessary, especially as it relates to the odor and the odor that's being emitted from the plant on an increasing basis. So that repair would be approximately $1.2 million. In addition to that repair, the outfall pipe that comes out of the water treatment plant. That's obviously a more costly endeavor, but wanted to try to get it on the board for tonight. But thank you for having this session, and thanks to everyone that's here tonight.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think, everybody, this is a good point to end it off.
Can I get a couple questions in?
You know what? We got 5 minutes. You know, we'll take one more, by all means.
One more.
Yeah, one more.
Thank you, appreciate
What's
it.
one more? Go ahead, sir.
John Lewis. Mayor Rossi, thanks for having this meeting tonight. Given what's taken place over the last year with the CARES Act funds, I'm glad that someone's actually taken initiative to talk to the residents and see what they would like to see done with the funds, because it is our funds.
All of ours.
Our
You're
funds,
absolutely right.
absolutely, not just a select few. So I hope that, I'm looking for a couple of things. For one, I'd love to see, I saw the makeup of the committee, and I know the council chooses, makes the choices, or you make the choice, and the council approves. But a lot of the people on that committee are not the West Haven businesses that are currently, that were impacted with this COVID, during COVID. Walmart stayed open, Target stayed open, but the small guy, a lot of them had to close. So I'd love to see some of them on the committee. I'd also love to see some type of grant committee set up so that if somebody wanted to apply, if they can prove that they were impacted during COVID, they can apply for funds from this ARPA money. That's what it's for. It's supposed to go back into, to really jumpstart the economy. That's the whole point of it. All right, so I'd love to see that happen. I'd also love to see, we should be wiring the green and the beach for broadband. I think that needs to take place. A lot of times people can't get to the library, but they can get to the green to look up whatever they want to look up. They should be able to do it for free because, broadband is, we should be able to wire the place. But I think that that committee needs to be made up of, it's not diverse enough as far as, it's a lot of out-of-town people. Yeah,
Not a lot of out of town.
it's pretty much all out of town. Even the Board of Ed chair, they don't live here, is my point.
I don't even know what you're talking about, the Board of Ed chair. The Board
No.
of Ed chair lives here.
He lives in Guilford.
That's
The
superintendent.
Board of Ed superintendent.
That's
You know
the
what I'm talking about.
superintendent. When you said the
Okay, I'm
Board of
sorry.
Ed chair,
I'm
she
talking-
lives here.
You know what I'm talking about, the person on the committee. That's what I'm saying. The people who are residents or they have businesses in West Haven should be making the decisions or having some impact on the decisions being made there. So
Well-
I would love to see that. Again, it's just suggestions. And I just hope that these funds are accounted for properly. And there is a monthly reporting to the city council for how the money is being spent, so that questions can be answered on a consistent basis. So we at least be able to track this. Thank you.
Once we actually start spending the money, there will be. Right now, there hasn't been any spending of money, and there won't be until the plan is done, and then the city council approving it. As far as who's on the committee, These are people that have been time-tested, people who are responsible, a lot of the people that are responsible for the beautiful high school that we have, that is on time and under budget. So these are people who are not going to decide what gets funded. They're facilitating the projects that the city council eventually, my ask, and then whatever the city council adds to it, changes, or whatever the final plan is, whatever projects there are, they will facilitate them. We want these projects to move quickly and seamlessly because we want to be able to help the people, not 10 years from now, but now, whether it be business stuff, whether it be building something, whether it be an art center for the center, whether it be a homeless shelter. There's many things that we can use this money for and help, and we have more ideas than we have money, but we're going to continue.
All right. On that note, everybody, my apologies, sir.
That's okay. I'll be really quick. My name's David Carr, and I
sir,
really appreciate you
my
having this meeting
apologies.
tonight. And I've heard some people talk about flooding. I've been an inland wetlands commissioner here for a few years, and we've seen the velocity of rain increase, and we're learning that the water columns are higher, and it's a huge issue we're going to deal with in the future. And I hear people talk about litter, and I hear us talk about the abandoned properties. We have a blight ordinance in West Haven, and it's $100 a day. If there's blight on a property, that person should be fined $100 a day every day. It's the same thing with the garbage cans. That's another thing. We have the ability to resolve that problem. You're supposed to put a lid on your can. It says so right there. So, I'm thinking about all of these things, and I go to this page 26,791, and it talks about housing services to support healthy living environments and neighborhoods conducive in mental and physical wellness. Now, this is really what we want for a community, is a community that's physically and emotionally well. So everything that we can do to support that is a great application of this money. And, I go through and read the whole thing, and there's a lot in there about supporting businesses, and there's, the sewer infrastructure. I don't see the building infrastructure, but maybe it's in there, I don't know. But we just have to think about the homeowners, and the homeowners are, like you said, people who live here, and the people who don't live here, business owners, people who invest here, they don't live here. So there's a lot of people involved, but the transparency of the process is incredibly important, and we're so lucky that we have the cameras here, and we can all watch the cameras, and that gives us the ability to provide citizen insight, and then we can come to meetings and we can read into the record. As you guys know, I like to do this every now and then. So I think that's a great opportunity for citizen insight, because we're obviously underneath the microscope after what happened with our CARES money. So this is a great opportunity for West Haven to show how accountable and how transparent and how responsible we can be, because everybody's sitting here going, they're going to do it again. And we have to not do it again, and we have to rise and make this great opportunity. And this is such a great opportunity for our city.
Thank you
So,
very much, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
On that subject,
Just one other thing.
You're in line.
Thank you.
I'm sorry,
Just that-
ma'am.
Well, I think it's just important that this is defined as not the last time that we can talk. That this is a
Absolutely.
beginning of a process of citizen involvement and citizen involvement in the decision-making as to what happens with this money. So I hope that you can tell us what the next step is for citizen involvement to continue.
I guess I could let the mayor end off on that
Okay,
note.
the way, let me answer the question, and then we'll see, okay? The way this is supposed to work now is I'm doing my due diligence, and this is why I've invited the citizens. I put up questionnaires. We even put them back up to get even more information. So this is information gathering, and what we're doing is looking at everything. And as I said, I wish we had even more money. 29 million sounds like a lot, but until you're looking and doing, big projects, and, as I said, our city, is in serious need. We have serious infrastructure problems all over. So that being said, once I'm done with my due diligence and all of that, then I'm going to, speak to a couple of the chair and a couple of the council members, and then what we're going to do is, then it's similar to my budget. Well, I turn it over to the city council. So no matter what I craft, it may or may not stay there. It all depends, because the council they're the legislative body, and per the charter, they have the right to change anything like that, and that's fine. But eventually, working together, myself with the city council, we'll come up with a plan, and then we have to execute the plan. So I'm looking forward to doing this. I feel we're very fortunate to have been given this $29 million. I don't want to sound ungrateful when I say we could spend it 3 times over. I'm just stating a fact, but we're very appreciative because there's a lot of good we can do with this money. And we're going to continue to fight for every grant, like people talked about. I will say, I think Doug left, but Doug Coulter is an excellent grants writer. He doesn't leave any money whatsoever on the table. He is very eager and aggressive to get, West Haven rolling, and he knows that applying for grants for us, even if it's a matching grant, we have done that. So we're going to continue to keep looking for this. Again, the infrastructure money, I'm waiting to find out more regulations about it, more instructions about it, because I know it passed, which was exciting because it was a little, worrisome there because we didn't know if it was going to pass. But right now it did pass, and hopefully the information will come out soon, and then we'll just keep moving forward because we do want to make West Haven shine. I think we have a great city with great residents and great input tonight. And now, young lady.
I just found out that the Milford Senior Center, they received $200,000 from the ARPA money. I said, how did you do that? And she said, I put the proposals and I got it. That's how easy it was. But on the another point is, can you imagine building a new senior center, the honor of West Haven? It would be a feather in your cap.
I agree. I'm not saying you're wrong.
It'll be forever your remembrance of Mayor Rossi did this. The administration did that. We need that. West Haven needs something beautiful.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you very
And
much.
as Nick said, please email me because, you might go home tonight and have a different idea, thought, question, issue, but we're going to continue moving forward with this, and I want to get the plan done and through the city council so we can actually start really spending the money on the projects and the infrastructure and our people and the needs that are out there for us. So thank you all again for your input. I really, really appreciate it. And as you know, we're all here to serve, and that's what we want to do, and we want to get through this together. Thank you.
If I may add, dialogue, there's going to be a city council meeting at February 23rd at 6 p.m. at the West Haven High School cafeteria to continue discussing in person the concerns of ARPA funding. So if you guys are interested, there are other opportunities.
What's the date again, sir?
That's